Hi Scibarkada! In today's episode of Sci Talks, we are going to talk about how the science and technology change over the years in broadcasting. So, titingnan natin kung paano ba nag-transform sa paggamit ng radio broadcasting until digital broadcasting na meron tayo ngayon. Broadcasting, according to Britannica, is defined as an electronic transmission of radio and television signals that are intended for general public reception, as distinguished from private signals that are directed to specific receivers. In its most common form, pwedeng ma-describe ang broadcasting as systematic dissemination ng entertainment, ng information at saka ng mga educational programs through a larger audience gamit ang audio and visual. So, represented by radio and television na ginagamit ng mga tao ngayon. Radio broadcasting began by discovering the radio waves on 1887 by Heinrich Hertz through an experiment that he did using spark gaps, induction coil, transmitter, and an antenna. The unit of frequency of the change in cycle per second of sparks or the waves are called hertz. Then on 1900s, Reginald Aubrey Fessenden pioneered the foundation of amplitude modulation or AM using the speech transmission through radio. He was also been popular to create the first two-way transatlantic transmission using the rotary spark transmitter and even made the first radio broadcast of entertainment and music. On year 1901, Guglielmo Marconi uses radio waves to transmit signals over a distance of several kilometers, and this is when wireless telegraph was invented. And the most interesting thing about this is that the users send their messages through the way of using Morse code. On the other hand, Dr. Lee De Forest competed Marconi by inventing vacuum tube called Audion, and was the first developed as a detector of radio waves and was quickly adopted by shipboard operators. This helped the American Telephone and Telegraph Company to set up coast-to-coast phone transactions and use in everything from radios to televisions.
In 1906, H. Dunwoody invents the crystal radio receiver. In the same year, 27 nations adopt wireless radio regulations at International Radio Telegraph Conference. Crystal radio receiver. Crystal radio receiver, also called the crystal set, is a simple radio receiver, popular in the early days of radio. It uses only the power of the received radio signals to produce sound, needing no external power. It is named for its most important component, a crystal detector, originally made from a piece of crystalline mineral such as galena. This component is now called a diode. In 1923, VK's work in patents the iconoscope TV imaging tube. Iconoscope. The iconoscope was the first practical video camera tube to be used in early television cameras. The iconoscope produced a much stronger signal than earlier mechanical design and could be used under any well-lit condition. This was the first full electronic system to replace earlier cameras, which used special spotlights or spinning discs to capture light from a single very bright lit spot. In 1926, mechanical television was developed out of Nipko's disc system and was pioneered by British inventor John Logie Baird. Mechanical television. Mechanical television or mechanical scan television is an obsolete television system that relies on a mechanical scanning device, such as rotating disc with holes in it or rotating mirror graph, to scan the scene and to generate the video signals, and a similar mechanical device at the receiver to display the picture. This contrasts with vacuum tube electronic television technology, using electron beam scanning methods. For example, the cathode ray tube (CRT) televisions. Subsequently, modern solid-state or liquid crystal display (LCD) are now used to create and display television pictures. 1927. The very first TV was invented by Philo Taylor Farnsworth in 1927. His original idea for a TV-like device was to create moving images using radio waves. First electronic television, video camera tube, and image dissector. To understand how an image dissector works, it is best to simplify the concept. In the simplification, the image dissector sees the outside world through a glass lens, which focuses an image through the clear glass wall of the tube onto a special plate, which was coated with a layer of cesium oxide. When the light strikes cesium oxide, it emits electrons, so you could think of special plate like a mirror that reflects an image made of electrons rather than light. This invisible electron reflection was aimed at a small detector circuit, which captured the electrons so that they could be amplified and transmitted to a television receiver. 1933. Edwin Armstrong demonstrated FM radio. FM radio. Armstrong conducted the first large-scale field test of his FM radio technology on the 85th floor of RCA's, or Radio Corporation of America, Empire State Building, off-site link from May 1934 until October 1935. However, RCA had its eye on television broadcasting and chose not to buy the patents of the FM technology. On June 17, 1936, presentation at the Federal Communications Commission or FCC headquarters made headlines nationwide. He played a jazz record over conventional AM radio, then switched to FM broadcast. If the audience of 50 engineers had shut their eyes, they would have believed the jazz band was in the same room. There were no extra nose sound, noted one reporter. He added that several engineers described the invention as one of the most important radio developments since the first earphone crystal sets were introduced.
During the late 30s, the US had 18 experimental stations running. During the 1939 World's Fair, David Sarnoff, president of RCA, unveiled the first commercial publicly accessible television broadcast. In Flushing, New York, he proclaimed, "Now we add sight to sound." And during the opening ceremonies of the fair, on April 30th, Franklin D. Roosevelt became the first president to ever be televised. In 1947, John Bardeen and Walter Brattain, with support from colleague William Shockley, demonstrate the transistor at Bell Laboratories in Morey Hill, New Jersey. It's been called the most important invention of the 20th century. The transistor, aka point contact transistor, is a semiconductor device that can amplify or switch electrical signals. It's been called the most important invention of the 20th century. The transistor, aka point contact transistor, is a semiconductor device that can amplify or switch electrical signals. It was developed to replace vacuum tubes. In 1948, the first cable TV system was created in Mahanoy City, Pennsylvania. It is a way to provide television service to those whose signal would be impacted by either mountains or tall buildings. On December 17, 1953, the FCC approved the National Television System Committee's recommendation of the RCA dot sequential color system. On December 30, 1953, the first color TV sets go on sale. In 1956, Ampex Corporation of Redwood City, California, introduced the first practical videotape recorder for television stations and networks to produce and time-shift broadcast. It replaced the impractical kinescope movie film. In 1956, Ampex Corporation of Redwood City, California, introduced the first practical videotape recorder for television stations and networks to produce and time-shift broadcast. It replaced the impractical kinescope movie film previously used to record TV. Telstar 1 was launched on a Thor Delta rocket on 10th of July 1962. It successfully relayed through space the first television pictures and telephone calls, and provided the first live transatlantic television feed. Telstar 2 was launched on May 7, 1963. Both Telstar 1 and Telstar 2 are still orbiting the Earth, though they no longer function.
Then, on 1990s, broadcasting turned digital. Noong 1993 to 1994, umusbong yung webcasting ng video to television stream and audio to radio stream na gumamit ng pinaghalong traditional way of radio and television programming. At the same time, may ini-utilize na rin na internet.
At dito na nagtatapos ang ating episode ngayon dito sa Scibarkada, where every wonders has answers.
Basta na may natutunan kayo, kaya naman,
Paano?